Hello, hello. I think something is, we need a minute. For some reason, okay, failed to scale on some destination. That is strange. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm Irina Baker. I am a founder of Radiant Mastery Academy, best-selling author, speaker, and a spiritual self-awareness mentor. And I would like to welcome to my live here our Scottish royalty, based on her last name. She is Shauneen Quinn. So welcome, royalty. Welcome.
We've been better, thank you.
And I've been fascinated with her accent. Everybody tells me I live in America, and everybody tells me, "Oh, you have a nice accent," and I'm myself like growling. But I'm fascinated myself. And the first thing when we met, Shauneen and I met, and I said, "Oh, I love your accent. Where are you from?" So that's the usual thing, right? How we start our conversation always. So we're in the presence of royalty here. And by the way, how do you say it in Europe? So in America, we say Scottish and Scotland. How do you say it in Europe? Scotland and
You should like
Scottish?
hear me say this. It's my accent, wouldn't you? Scottish.
Yeah, because I grew up in the Soviet Union a long time ago at that time. Now it's Russia. And I was learning English, so I was learning the British English, as they say, the Royal English, right? So everything was awe. And so when I came to America, I had to relearn everything and start saying So now it's Scottish, and in if you are in Europe, it would be Scottish Queen, Scottish royalty.
Scottish. Yes. Oh.
Oh, right. I'm sure my accent now is everywhere, including Russian too, after 30 years in America. Anyway, Shauneen Quinn is a spiritual transformational coach and the creator of the Starlight Method. I love the name Starlight, a powerful fusion of psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, and multidimensional healing. Rooted in both ancient wisdom and grounded therapeutic tools, her unique method activates a deep, sacred remembrance. And that's what we want. That's all we need right now. Remember who we are. And I see the light around you, so that's interesting. Through her work, Shauneen empowers her clients to reconnect to their divine essence and navigate life's pivotal transitions with clarity, confidence, and courage. She gives you the key to unlock the love, self belief, and personal power you have always had. Her approach is intuitive, integrative, and profoundly transformational. And we're going to talk about Shauneen's story. And as I was listening to her, because we've met, and I've heard at least part of the story, and I felt like I was talking to myself because I've been there. I know every step. I experienced my own spiritual awakening. So it's quite fascinating, and I can tell you, it's exactly true, and it's amazing. So you're here for a real treat. And so let's start with something that first we will go from darkness into the light, it seems like, right? With your story. And I'm sure I experienced myself the same thing, similar thing. And a lot of people who are awakening spiritually experience. So first we have to experience the darkness. We have to experience that part of us, it's karma, but well, it's not maybe, it's actually, we have to experience karma, then we wake up, then we go on a journey, hero's journey. We call it a spiritual journey, and then we arrive to a very beautiful place, the place in the light. So that's how I look at it as myself as an expert in that, and I believe that your story will demonstrate that exactly, right? So just interesting transition from one place of frequency to another place of frequency, and
entirely different. Yeah.
Right. And just a disclaimer, we're going to use the word cult, and some people might be uncomfortable with it, but we take it or leave it. That's how I usually say, take it or leave it. We have in America here, we have right of speech. I don't know about wherever you are, right? But we express our opinion. I believe Shauneen used this word cult, and I got very interested because I would like to know how she perceives it, how she believes, what she believes, why is she calling it this way. And I agree with her. So we're here openly talking about it. And if somebody is offended, well, that's your right to be offended. And we're sending you light and love and blessings. So here we come. I hope I said it right. Just coming from my heart that we need to raise awareness, and that's what we're doing. So,
Absolutely. That's so beautiful the way you said it. Thank you so much for inviting me here to share my story and to speak about this complete transition, this complete 180-degree change of view, and how I had to integrate that into my life. A total flip, completely flip. So yeah, the awareness of these practices and this cult, I feel, should be much more mainstream than it is.
right. Okay, so let's talk about the cult. You calling the cult. So what was that? And it's a religion. So how did you start? Because it's the foundation of your awakening. You couldn't just suddenly out of the blue wake up if you haven't experienced this, because we all need that. Without the darkness, how can we know we're in the light? So basically, even my 15-year-old teenager who doesn't believe in any of it yet, she said, how can we do without this? We cannot experience that. So interesting.
Oh, wise teenager, very wise teenager.
Right.
So I was brought up in this organization, and I just have to say a disclaimer that I still have family members within this organization. So me referring to it as a cult is not popular at all. And I don't mean it to be disrespectful, but let me tell you something. When I left this particular organization and discovered, just like working through all the deep conditioning, the restrictive conditioning, I realized that it was a cult. And I remember reading about Stephen Hassan's experience in the Moonies, and he became America's leading cult expert. And he created the BITE model, and he absolutely includes Jehovah's Witnesses in this. And here's the thing. I was brought up, this is going to sound really strange, but I'm really used to saying it now. First of all, I was brought up talking about the end of the world to complete strangers out in the doors from the age of 9. We were brought up to believe we weren't going to get any older in this system of things, which has such a knock-on effect. So education was not encouraged. It wasn't important because everything was geared towards the end of the world, the end of this system of things. And of course, only Jehovah's Witnesses or anyone who was willing to listen to Jehovah's Witnesses was going to survive the end of the world. The information control, so even learning about other religions was restricted within this organization, and you could only learn about other religions, any other teachings, through the publications that they created. So the information control, the social control, you're not allowed friends out with the witnesses because that is seen as bad association. Told what to wear, the fear. And I know a lot of religions are based on fear. But I remember when I was studying cognitive behavioural therapy, and I remember really something clicking. I was like, that's why you're such an all or nothing thinker. Because it's like, if you don't do this, then die at Armageddon. If you do this, you won't die at Armageddon, you know? So it was like so like 0 to 100 in 10 seconds flat. So when I left the cult, it was such a strange experience for me.
Okay. I want to stay a little bit longer on the cult because I'm so fascinated. I don't know anything about Jehovah's Witnesses, but interestingly enough, how divine guidance works, how divine guidance brought you to me, because you were a part of my summit, and then you contacted me wanting to share your story. And during that time, I actually didn't know at that time, because obviously I wasn't aware yet. But I received for the very first time in my life, actually, I received an invitation. I threw it away. Unfortunately, I should have shown it. But I received an invitation, a brochure in the mail. And it said, let's commemorate. You invited to a gathering to commemorate death of Jesus Christ. Not resurrection, not anything on the other side, but it's a death of Jesus Christ. This is the first time I actually saw that or learned about it, that we have to commemorate the death of Jesus Christ like that in this context. So it's interesting that I got that brochure and now we're talking about this.
The synchronicity of that is incredible, isn't it?
I am showing the teaching point here because everything is for a reason, but people usually stop there. They don't know what the reason is. But the reason was I got this brochure, and now we're talking together to learn something about it, right? So it's yeah,
that's incredible. So that is the memorial. That is a big date in the Witnesses calendar. They celebrate the death of Jesus Christ.
And why are they doing this? What's the point? What's the context here?
It's to celebrate the fact that Jesus died to cleanse us of our sins.
Mm-hmm. And then what?
So then they commemorate I've not been to the memorial for years. Let me just cast my mind back here. They commemorate it by they pass the leavened bread and they pass the wine, and that is the one time ever actually in the witness calendar where you're able to even touch divinity in any way, shape, or form. You're imbibing the bread as part of Jesus to commemorate the body of Jesus, and the wine is the blood, and it's really giving reverence to that sacrifice that Jesus died to cleanse us of our sins. So
it's similar. It's the same as another religion, right? Major religions. So that part is major religions. Okay. But IMC, as you were enumerating the fear, the restriction, the control, severe control, right? Do you have, did they have any, can they allow women to be in charge or only men in charge?
Only men in charge.
Only
they
men.
very much go by the scripture that the woman is the weaker vessel within that organisation, which is in this society, in this new energy, in this new consciousness, where the light's coming into these darker, insidious teachings, that is becoming more and more rebelled against now.
Right. Yeah,
we also have the shunning practices are really, really coming to light now. So the other aspect of a cult is that there's real ramifications for leaving it. But there's also I don't know how to say this, but caveats in between that, so if you do go against the teachings in any way, you are marked from the podium, okay? So if you go against anything, you have to be very, very, you have to confess your sins, and not in an anonymous way, like in front of a panel of elders. That happened to me. It was actually one of the most embarrassing experiences of my life, entirely humiliating. And then you are marked from the platform anonymously, but it's not anonymous, Irina, because there is a talk given. Say you were out drinking too much or something like that, okay? There's a talk given about overindulging in alcohol, and then there's a moment where the elder leaves the platform and then comes back on and then just anonymously just says such and such has been marked, and they don't say why, but because it ties in with the talk. So
So it's a very elaborate manipulation.
oh, incredible, incredible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what do you mean by platform?
Podium, I suppose you would say. So
I
Jehovah's
mean, you
Witness.
keep saying you marked from the platform. Is there any meaning to it, or you just
Oh,
call?
that's just like where they give their talks. That's where they talk to the
Oh,
congregation. Yeah.
mhm.
So they go up and they have this. It's an official announcement.
Oh, I see. I see. Well, it seems to me. I mean, this is interesting. I think this is the first time I'm openly talking about this out on live, right? So I think we're brave here. So it seems like all organized big major religions have similar features because they talk about guilty, all the sins, and there is a control, all the fear that is associated with us, right? Being there and being controlled. You have to adhere strict rules of that particular religion. And interestingly enough, it feels like also Soviet Union where we had no religion whatsoever, but we
Yeah.
had civil control. We had no speech, no rights, no anything, right? So basically, and in my city where I was growing up, it was a lot of crime and it was a lot of mafia, and they were gangs, and they're very young. They were raising kids from young age to be in that mafia. And so if the kid tried to get away, or the gangster, whatever person tries to get away, well, it's consequences, like you said, ramifications. So it seems like, and I've known of other churches, when you leave, then oh my gosh, you associate with devil, you nobody now, you're so bad because you dare to leave our place. So that's interesting. I'm just seeing it's not just Jehovah Witness, it's just organized religion that is, I don't know, need to wake up from it, right? So
I don't know any other mainstream religion though that teaches you that you're not going to get any older and the education isn't important. Maybe apart from I don't know. Actually, one sprung to mind, but I thought no, they don't even. So, for instance, like when I was 16, I wanted to be I wanted to be a lawyer. I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. I was older than I was younger than 16. And I remember this, you know how some core memories just really, really stick. And I was really just born with this sense of I'm going to save the world. You know, the world's not a great place, and I had this sense of I could bring justice to it. And so I'll never forget this. And I ran home flat because we had gone to Glasgow University. It was a school trip. We'd gone to Glasgow University, and I saw this mock courtroom, and you know that way where we know what lights up your soul. You get that, like that just that excitement within you. And I remember just flying home and saying to my parents, my dad wasn't part of the cult at the time, but my mum very much was. I was like, I know what I want to do. So I must have been much younger because I would need to have studied maybe about 14. And they just shut it down there and then, completely shut it down. There's no point. Armageddon will be there by now. Like, I don't even know what you're bothering studying for your maths O grades. Like, I'm a real numbers person and I loved maths. I shared that with you, trigonometry geek. And it was just like, wow, you know, and that was very much, what's the word? What's the right word here? That's like one of their foundational points. It's Armageddon is coming. There's not really much point in planning for the future. Like it's just, and that in my eyes, and also in Stephen Hassan's eyes, and becoming a lot more globally recognised as not so mainstream and a cult.
wow. In the Soviet Union, we were building the future. And here in Scotland, you were living without the future. How interesting. The same type of control, but at different ways, of different angles.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
parallels are quite crazy.
Right. Whatever suits you, I guess. Whatever suits your needs, right? Whatever suits your frequency. Okay, well, very interesting. Let's move to the point where how did you decide to leave, and what happened next?
Okay, so I rebelled and married an unbeliever, which was very, very frowned upon, but I married an unbeliever. And just to take you back a wee bit, when I was 17, my grandfather died and my papa died within 3 weeks of each other. And that was huge. That was very, very traumatic. And bearing in mind that the witness is all about Armageddon and dying and the end of the world and all the rest of it. So Irina, from the age of 17 to 26, I thought about death every single day. Worried about loved ones dying. And of course, I married an unbeliever. I tried to stay within the cult because it was fear-based and I was frightened and, I didn't want to die at Armageddon. It sounds crazy talking about this now, it really does. But from the age of 17 to 26, every single day I would think about death. Every day I'd worry about my partner, my husband dying at Armageddon. It was constant. It was every day. And here's what happened. I had a chest infection and find out why it was affecting my voice so much. And I lost my voice for 6 months. 6 months, I lost my voice.
Well, of course. Why do you need your voice? You're going to die anyway in the end of the world.
Exactly. And so because I'm quite a chatty person, as you might have gathered, there was no ability to express myself because I just couldn't speak. It was a fault. I had been breathing faultily all the way through the chest infection. They couldn't get to the bottom of it. But here's what happened. One, I learned the deep yogic breath, which would really serve me further on down the line. But secondly, I had to go within. I absolutely had to go within and to really just, I turned to poetry, to express myself, to understand, because it's quite something being in an organisation like that and being in love with someone who is not part of that organisation. There's a real pull there, a real dissonance there. And one day, in my silence, in my poetry, in my self-reflection, one day I just came to the realization that I can't do this for another moment. I cannot live with this level of fear. And the witnesses talk about they're so separate from other religions. They call religions like Christendom, and it's not a level playing field at all. Where they say they have the truth, all this. And I remember in that period of reflection thinking, you're no different. This is no different from living as, say, a Catholic, fearing hellfire. I just stopped. That's what happened. I just stopped. I couldn't do it a moment longer, and I left.
Wow. So it came from within because you had to really slow down and withdraw because you couldn't speak anyway. So you turn your focus inward and the answer came.
Absolutely. And it was like a light bulb going off. And it was so freeing. It was like a weight had been lifted.
So you were still in a cult, as you call it. And so that was the moment when you decided to leave, right?
That was the moment.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah. And when you decide to leave, that doesn't mean you still leave, because it takes bravery, it takes strength, right? It takes inner strength to do that.
Absolutely.
It's one thing you want to, and another thing actually to make that step. So how did you do it?
It's the decision. I was with my husband at the time, so it was easier for me than it is for other people. Like, I support people that leave the cult. If they've been shunned, they lose their family. Some of them lose their businesses. They lose employment. It's a real isolating experience. For me, it was stepping away, and I'm a really, really deep thinker. And I was just like, even if this is true, even if Armageddon's coming, I can't live with this level of fear anymore. And it was I'm going to use the word hypocrisy, and I know that sounds really strong, but it was that realization that this is not any different from what they say they are so separate from. It's like we're in the world but not of the world. Like, actually, you're not any damn different than sitting up preaching from a podium about burning in eternal hellfire. And here's the other thing, such a deep thinker. So the witnesses believe that after Armageddon, there'll be like a period of chaos, okay, that we'll all sort out without going into too much detail. And then we all live forever on earth. Live forever. And Irina, I can't tell you how many times I would wake up in the middle of the night, because our brains, our human brains, are not designed to grasp the concept of forever. And so that forever used to wake me up in the middle of the night. And I just stopped being able to do it. But as you say, you walk away, but you still live with the what if, what about the fear? And it honestly wasn't until years later, when I came to do my yoga teaching, my therapy training, all that I really, really started to grasp the depth of the conditioning that you have in an organisation like that. As I say, the all or nothing thinking is just scratching the surface. The good thing about me was I was born quite different anyway. I was born a wee fighter, kind of had to be the way I was brought up. So I wasn't bothered about being different. That didn't bother me as much as it did like my sister, for instance, and like friends of mine. But you're just born with such an innate sense of what feels right. And I was a real empathic child, so I could walk into a room and know how people were feeling without them saying anything. I could spot a lie from a mile away, and I was always getting into trouble with that. It was like, that wasn't what you said earlier, that didn't go down well. And these empathic abilities in me were shut down, and not just shut down, terrified out of me, because anything that you couldn't perceive with the five senses was just deemed outright evil. If it wasn't from the witnesses, if it wasn't from the teachings, if it wasn't from their publications, it was just evil. So it was just good and bad, God and the devil.
And that's the root of women's suppression, because women represent, to me, in my belief, women represent the spiritual world, the emotional world, the feelings, the psychic abilities, because psychic abilities are the glimpse into the after on the other dimension, not just physical. And so women are suppressed, and let's suppress psychic abilities, let's suppress feelings, let's suppress emotions, let's suppress all of that and just live on a mental realm, because this is all the mental realm. And
I think if you had psychic abilities in that organisation, that would also have been suppressed, though, without a doubt.
Exactly. And it's nothing but, you have that empathic ability. You can call it psychic, you can call it empathic, you can call it whatever you want, but you are tapping into feeling, you are tapping into energy. What's wrong about that? Actually, it's very right. But
But here's the thing, there's no such thing as the soul with the witnesses. There's no such thing. So yeah, there's no such thing. So it's like you die, you return to dust. I'm really testing my memory on the scriptures here, but I think it's like you die and you return to dust. So even when witnesses die, like when my father died, there was no recognition, there was no tombstone, there was nothing, birthdays are not celebrated, Christmas is nothing celebrated. Actually, don't celebrate anything. They celebrate wedding anniversaries, and that's it. Nothing that would bring any kind of recognition to you as a human being that isn't serving God is just not recognised. So when I left, this will sound crazy, but when I left, even just making decisions that felt right for me and not taking into the organisation, not taking God's view of it, like the dictatorial God view into it, was so alien for me. It was like, what my feelings matter, like what I want to do matters. It was huge. It was a huge transition.
Wow. Wow. If I knew all this, that we would talk about it, I would schedule just this part for one time, because that's so interesting and fascinating. And people need to know about it, to be aware.
Thank you. They do. They absolutely do. And as I say, these shunning practices, they're starting to become a lot more in the light. I don't think the other practices of like marking within the organisation, or even where they can get their information from, that isn't something I've ever heard anybody talk about. There's one particular book that they published, and it had all the religions. So it was like a one-stop shop, right? Here's all the religions, here's all the practices. There you go. You don't even learn anything else, So.
Yeah. It's interesting. Last week I was having conversation with my good friend Bernadette Georgie, and she called herself recovering Catholic. She was devoted Catholic before, and now she's recovering Catholic. And now today you were talking about basically you recovering, or you were recovering from Jehovah's Witness. I don't even know how to call cultist, the new word cultist. Recovering cult survivor, right? So that's quite interesting. I know also somebody told me from another religion they had to recover, and they even had to organize the group that was dealing with ramifications of going to the church for so many years, and now they had to recover. So it's quite an interesting thing that not many people I guess discuss, because I don't usually hear it out there in a
I know. So it's good
in
to
a big way.
bring into mainstream. There are people out there who are leaving, and they have got nobody.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's also, so you mentioned that many years you had to be in recovery, because you can't just leave and be completely healed and changed, right? Because beliefs are beliefs, and frequency is the frequency. Once you make that decision, then you still have to make the hero's journey and move forward and continue healing. So it's everywhere. It's in spiritual world, it's the physical, it's everywhere. You cannot, people think divorce, they divorce and they're free. No, they're not, because they energetically, they still have to heal themselves and change the beliefs, whatever it is. So it's the same pattern. Okay, so we're taking a lot of time, which I would like even more time. We'll see how maybe one day we'll just take even deeper plunge into it.
Absolutely.
But right now, I would like to hear about your spiritual awakening. So you had this awakening when you decided to leave the cult, but then you had also spiritual awakening, right? When you woke up. So can we call this the darkness, right?
Yeah,
Obviously.
Yeah.
That was darkness. You needed to experience it for whatever your karmic reasons are, right? And now then you woke up into the spiritual, you had spiritual awakening into the light. So how did it happen? What's the moment?
The moment, there's never just a moment, isn't it? Not like when you look back in it, like really you can see what led up to it. I was studying as a yoga teacher. So I had gone through a divorce, was bringing my children up myself, and I was studying as a yoga teacher. I got introduced to yoga. I can't even remember how I got introduced to yoga, but like one of these, like, it's just got so many synchronistic elements that you think, oh my goodness me, this is how I ended up here. So very long story short, I'm in yoga, and I'm in the class, And the reason I decided to study yoga, because we weren't allowed to study yoga or anything like that in the cult, but the reason somebody introduced me to it, that's what it was when my son was born. And he wasn't a good sleeper. Lewis just wasn't a good sleeper. So I went along to yoga, and I was able to, I remember coming out of yoga for the first time and feeling this sense of energy, feeling energized and relaxed at the same time. And I'm like, I didn't even know such a physical state was possible up to that point. So fast forward a few years, find myself studying yoga because I wanted answers. I'm so inquisitive. I'm like, how can that help your state of mind? Just moving your body, how can that help your state of mind? My goodness me, I was about to find out. And my teachers would say to me, you're so much more than the physical body. And I remember saying to them, well, I'm not doing this to be a teacher. I'm doing this because I want my questions answered. And what do you mean by that? That meant nothing to me because I didn't know about the energy body. I didn't know about the soul. You know, it was shut down. It wasn't accessible to me. And they would never give me a satisfactory answer. So here's what happened. I was at a point in my life where I was just frustrated by what I was hearing. You're so much more than the physical body. Your thoughts create your reality, blah, blah, blah. That's what it sounded like to me. I was bringing up my children myself. And one day, I think I'd heard about this book 3 times. Now, I know that that's kind of like the magic number now. And I'll tell my clients that if you hear something 3 times, pay attention. So it was this book, Irina, Conversations with God. And I picked it up in complete stubbornness. I had resisted it, picked it up in complete stubbornness. And there's a sentence within that book that completely changed my life. And the interesting thing is, I didn't actually fully grasp it until I was halfway through the second book. I had kind of just like skimmed it and thought, oh, it'll land at some point. And it basically talked about how we cannot know, it's like a candle in a room full of candles can't know itself as light without the darkness. A bit like what you just said about the darkness and the light from my journey. And I remember thinking, I don't really get that. Like, if there only is light, and I didn't know there was light, so it was very confusing to me. And I don't even know where I was in the book, but I just remember this moment when I'm sitting in the garden, kids were out playing, and the realization of what that was saying to me and what my teachers had been telling me for so long just landed. It was just the right moment, and it just landed. And I remember getting up from my seat, feeling about 7 feet tall, and just sitting down and just allowing it to land. And that was the start. I'd been meditating for about a month when I read that book, and I was becoming aware of this breeze on the left-hand side of my face when I was meditating. And I would go into friends' houses and families' houses, and there was still that breeze on the left-hand side of my face. And you know, you check the external, you're looking for the windows open and everything, knowing deep down there isn't a window open. It was me that was opening.
Not only you was opening, but we can specify that it was your feminine was opening, because like I said, feminine is repressed, feminine is the feelings, feminine is the psychic abilities, feminine is all empathy and all everything that is about the soul. It's on the opposite side of the mental. And so that's why you were feeling that breeze on the left hand side. You were becoming aware, at least that's my opinion, you were becoming aware of your feminine side.
I was always still empathic, to be honest with you, very in touch with my emotions. But yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but also, you know, we have feminine and masculine within both species, you know, so like we can have You can have men who are entirely psychic and in touch with their.
Oh yeah. But every single one has Adam and Eve inside. What I mean is, I'm not talking about men as per se. I'm talking about inside, mental and emotional feeling. So
Yeah.
the Adam and Eve, to me, Adam is the mental and Eve is the feeling. And when the control is happening in the cult, it's all mental. There is no love. It's mental. It's intellect. It's logic. It's not love.
It's,
Love comes supplied by Eve. Love. That's why even men say, "Well, she's my muse." Muse, woman supplies. So it's just a representation. I'm talking about the metaphors and analogies, and of course, every single person, man or a woman, has both Adam and Eve inside.
absolutely. Well, that's what was wakening. That was wakening up in me. And so after about a month, I remember having a nap one day, still processing what I had read, okay? Still very much processing what I had read. And I remember having a nap, kids were out, and I was just waking up from my sleep. I was very tired during this time period. I remember that. I remember it was almost like your plug was pulled. You know the movie Avatar when their plug's pulled and they just have to go to sleep? It was like that. And I remember just waking up. And as I was waking up, I was aware that the temperature of the room, the vibration, the frequency in the room had dropped. And it was that same breeze that had been blowing on the left-hand side of my face. And you're right, that's the receiving, the feminine side. And as I opened my eyes, on the other side of the room, I witnessed, kind of out the corner of my eye, this mass of white light. And I was just lying there, feeling the temperature, no fear whatsoever. I'm looking at this mass of white light. And as I was kind of looking at it out the side of my eye, it moved. And it started to move towards me as I'm just lying there on the sofa in my living room in the middle of a Wednesday afternoon or whatever day it was. And as it moved towards me, it was getting smaller and smaller and nearer and nearer. And I remember consciously thinking, I need to stare this in the face. Because everything that had gone before, all that conditioning, anything that can't be perceived in the physical realms is downright evil. And I made that conscious decision, Irina, to look at it and stare it right in the face and see it for what it was, see what I was dealing with. And as soon as I did that, I'll never forget that, I looked to the side at this massive white light and it jumped, I suppose you would say, in awe of what I had just experienced. And I remember something about that book, Conversations with God, the book that changed my life by Neil Donald Walsh. And it says in that book, if anything happens that you can't explain, remember to ask. And so I asked, what was that? What was that? And I heard so clearly, Irina, your spirit. And from that moment on, my view of the world changed completely. That wasn't the only experience. I had lots of beautiful experiences in quick succession. It was almost like, we need to fast track this woman. She has no idea she has a soul. She has work to do in this world. We need to fast track this woman. And I was introduced, I was witness to my spirit, to my soul. And it was, the word is transcendental and emotional and beautiful, but it took time to integrate. And I had to take that time, because marrying spirit with good took time for me. It really, really took time for me. And I remember saying to my mentor at the time, who was astonished when I told her about my experiences, I said to her, does that mean I'm going to start seeing dead people? Because that's that's all I was worried about. She gave me the best advice ever, because I didn't know about vibration and frequency at the time. How could I? And she said, as long as you want that vibration in your life, that's what you can invite in. But if you don't want that vibration and that frequency, you don't need to invite it in. So I
You
went,
can bypass it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, completely. So
Yeah.
that was the moment.
That is amazing. That is an amazing story and amazing experience. And you very nicely put it together as you were a woman without, quote unquote, without the soul, because the soul was suppressed. That's what I mean. The feminine, the soul is love. Love is light. Light is feminine only because it's feeling. Love is a feeling. You don't think love. You feel love, right? You
Entirely.
don't, yeah. So it's, but mental is you think, you don't feel. Only two together makes us whole, complete, not separate, just mental or just feeling. That's why men and women want to be together, usually, right? Because mental yin and yang, mental and feeling need to be together. And that's inside, that's an inner couple inside. And so before, and like many people, in fact, if not everybody, we start as in mental because that's the world. The mental, it's the matrix. I believe it's a mental matrix. It's all mental. And then you experience that soul entered, so you woke up to your divinity. And divinity is love, it's divinity is light, and it's a feeling. Yeah. We don't discard the mental because mental is needed for to be in service to the feeling.
Absolutely. And that's why I developed the Starlight method, because we need to take the energy and ground it into the physical. So you need that fusion of grounded spiritual techniques. And the thing is, it's difficult to solve a problem from the area, from the part of the body that it came from. And just to fix it from one part of our body, we're triad beings, we're mind, body, and soul. And so that's why I developed that method, because it was, you can't just fix it from the head.
Right.
You've got to address it from all angles of who we are: mind, body, soul.
Exactly. I got this realization after 30 years of my spiritual journey. And I do believe that people want to fly and learn spiritual, but we don't need to learn spiritual because we are spiritual. We came from the light, we know it. We need to learn physical, but being incorporated. So the physical and spiritual, all of that together, and it has to be in the body because without the body we're ghosts, we are
Well,
dead people.
it's 3D realities. So it's great to astral travel. Believe me, it's brilliant to astral travel, but it doesn't get much work, get anything done in the 3D.
I do agree. I usually say I don't care if it's not practical, and if I don't have it's anything practical to improve my life here in the physical, then why do I need it? So again, that's my belief. I use spiritual, very solid spiritual foundation because my life is all about spiritual, but not just it has to be in the body. We have to
It
put
has
them
to
together.
integrate. It has to fuse. Yeah, it has
Right,
to.
right. Okay, well, that's been an amazing experience. I wish we had more time. We already taken a lot of times, but I hope everybody is enjoying because I am enjoying it tremendously, this conversation.
Really good. It was
Thank
really good
you.
to share that. Thank you so much for that opportunity. Thank you.
Where can people find you if they want to know more about your method and your work and yourself?
Absolutely. So my website is www.findaneway.co.uk. And there's a gorgeous free resource there that will help you to tap into that part of yourself, that soul space within yourself, where there's such a reservoir of strength, resilience, love, intuition, ideas. And you can find that on my website. Just go to free resources.
Perfect.
It's called Wisdom of the Heart meditation. Go to that.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. That's a great resource.
So much. Thank you.
And of course, I would like to invite everyone who is watching, who is not watching either, telepathically. So to my upcoming masterclass, and it's called 3 Keys to Unlock the Door to Divine Guidance. And of course, it's all about how we bring divine into our physical body, how we communicate, how we make divine active partnership with us. And of course, divine guidance is a must to navigate through your spiritual journey, but in the body. So it's both. And you can register at radiantmastery.com/masterclass. Simple. Radiant means full of light. That's what we all about. We want that full of light experiences and way of being. And so again, radiantmastery.com/masterclass. And thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, the royalty, Scottish royalty. I need to mention it again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye-bye.